Hello friends, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and it's Sunday, so of course it's time for the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. I'm going to take things a little bit out of the order that we watched them this week. I'm actually going to start with the last movie we watched. I know some people don't watch my vlogs all the way through to the end, and I just want to make sure that I tell you guys about this movie because I just discovered it and it's incredible. It is a 1965 Italian animated film called West and Soda. I had never heard of this movie before. It came up, I was just surfing around on Amazon Prime, seeing what was available, and the card came up for it, and I saw the graphic on the card, and I said, okay, that's intriguing. What does West and Soda mean? And I clicked on it, and it immediately said it was a, brilliant animated piece by a guy named Bruno Bozzetto. And I thought I recognized that name. So I looked him up, and he's the guy who made Allegro non troppo, which is the spoof of Fantasia, which is very good. But I had never heard of any other films that he had made, or any other animation that he had done until this recommendation came up the other day. And so I said, okay, let's give this thing a try. And you guys, West and Soda is one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. I can't believe I've never heard of it. I can't believe no one's ever recommended it to me, knowing how much I love animation and how much I love Westerns. You guys, this is an animated spaghetti Western. It's an hour and a half long. It's mid-60s in that great 60s modern animation style. It borrows a lot from Looney Tunes, immediately prior to the mid-60s. But it's really its own thing. It's got incredible character designs, incredible background designs. The animation is great. The story is pretty solid. It's a, classic sort of Western story. There's an evil guy who's controlling the whole valley in this area, except for this one holdout. There's a beautiful lady, and she's got like the gorgeous green land at her farm. The whole rest of the valley is a dust bowl. And so the evil, controlling kind of businessman character who's got all the rest of the land in this valley wants to get her land. And so he's going to go about this by seducing her, convincing her to marry him, and then gaining her land in that way. So he gets the girl and gets the land. But she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And a mysterious stranger rides into town, a retired gunslinger who doesn't want to shoot anyone. And he's going to stop the bad guys from being bad. So pretty classic Western tropes as far as the story goes, mixed with this just kind of wacky screwball style of mid-60s animation. There's tons of great sight gags, a lot of really funny jokes, a lot of really unexpected things happen, which are really fun. Lots of great characters. It's just fantastic. It's a brilliant movie. I can't believe I've never seen it before, or even heard of it before. We did find it on Amazon. I think it's also available in the full, its entirety, on YouTube. So check that out, West and Soda by Bruno Bozzetto. Apparently, in an interview, he claims to have invented the spaghetti Western. Now, West and Soda came out in 1965. And A Fistful of Dollars came out in 1964. Most people consider that the first spaghetti Western, but Bozzetto points out that it takes so long to make animation. He actually started making West and Soda before Leone started making A Fistful of Dollars. So he beat him to the punch in terms of the concept and getting started on the movie. Of course, Fistful of Dollars was finished first and came out first and is obviously the much better known spaghetti Western. But if you're a fan of animation, especially 60s animation, it looks a lot like Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. So if you like that one, you'll love West and Soda. If you like Westerns, you'll love West and Soda. I just can't recommend this one enough. We had so much fun watching it. It was such an unexpected treat. Being able to find a full-length animated movie from before I was born that I've never seen is honestly, there's not that many of them out there at this point. I've seen a lot of animation. So real treat, definitely recommended. I think you guys will love it. So West and Soda. Got a little bit of a weird name, but there is a point in the movie where it becomes explained. So I'm not going to tell you guys what it means. Now let's travel back in time to the beginning of our week, where we started not in the Wild West, but in the Wild East with Gangs of New York from 2002, of course, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Daniel Day-Lewis as Bill the Butcher. He pretty much carries this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz are the other principal actors, and they do a good job. And the rest of the supporting cast of kind of like every Irish actor you've ever seen in an old New York movie are kind of all together in this movie. Great acting from all of them, but I really feel like the weight of the movie is carried by Daniel Day-Lewis and his performance as his iconic performance as Bill the Butcher in this film. Of course, it's a story of street gangs. You've got the local Protestants who don't want the Irish immigrants coming in and taking over their spot. And they are warring in the streets and getting all up in each other's business in, it's like 1864 or something is the setting for this. It's an incredible period drama. It's got incredible sets, incredible costumes. The whole way that the story is laid out and unfolds is pretty cool. For the most part, it stays true to what it is as a 19th century story. Unfortunately, Scorsese gets a little late 90s, early 2000s in a couple parts, most notably the opening, the first big scene in the movie is this giant fight between these two gangs. And the setup for the fight is pretty cool. But then once the actual fight starts happening, the combination of the camera work, some use of slow motion, and the song that they chose to put over the top of this fight scene just makes it feel like a music video, which makes it feel pretty out of place in the movie. It's an amazing battle scene. It just stylistically feels wrong with the rest of the movie because of the way that it's presented. Again, like a late 90s music video. The other musical problem is the very last song in the movie, which I think is a U2 song, but I might have that wrong. It's horrendous, and it totally just like zaps you out of the world of watching the movie and being so into what's going on with these different characters and their lives and what's happening, with New York as a character. Like so many Scorsese movies, it's an ode to New York itself. And you get kind of wrenched out of that by this jarring song at the end of the movie. So I feel like if those two songs weren't in the movie, it would be like 15% better than it is, if that makes sense. Other than that's my big complaint about the movie is these two songs. It's pretty damn solid. It's Scorsese's a great director. Again, Daniel Day-Lewis is incredible in his role, and the rest of the supporting cast are pretty amazing. The set itself is unbelievable. I read on Wikipedia they actually had to film it in Italy because there was nowhere in New York to build this like half-mile wide set of 19th century New York. Because of course 20th century New York doesn't look like 19th century New York. So it's pretty cool. It's a lot of eye candy. It's a lot of, I don't know how historically accurate it is, but it feels pretty authentic. So that's worth something to me. Recommended if you like movies about gangsters, if you like Scorsese films, if you enjoy Daniel Day-Lewis films, but he's an incredible actor with an incredible range. So it's kind of all over the map as far as what movies is he in. But I would definitely recommend that to most people. It's a more accessible Scorsese film. Also, I think, there's definitely some of his earlier stuff that's way more adult. Not showing Taxi Driver to the kids for quite a few years yet. But Gangs of New York is a little easier to digest, I would say. So recommended. The next night after that, we traveled back in time to 1957 for 20 Million Miles to Earth. This is a Nathan Juran movie, but really it's a Ray Harryhausen movie. The entire movie was made to showcase Harryhausen's amazing stop motion special effects. And this particular outing is a story about the first manned mission to Venus, comes back to Earth, crash lands off the coast of Sicily. One guy survives, but there's also like a canister with some kind of biological specimen in it from Venus. Little Sicilian boy picks that up off the beach and goes and sells it to a local zoologist. This thing, it's like a gelatinous blob, and then it opens up and it's this tiny little like articulated lizard man, and he's like about this tall to begin with, but then through the course of a few days he grows and grows and grows and causes bigger and bigger problems for first the zoologist who has him, and then the Italians, and then the Americans, who have of course sent a whole crew of people over to get this specimen back because it's an alien specimen. And he just proceeds to wreak havoc in Italy with a great climactic scene where he's been let loose in Rome, gets in a fight with an elephant, and a couple of set pieces where there's battles at the Forum and the Colosseum, which are very impressive, again, for their time. Yes, it's stop motion animation, so it's a little jerky sometimes. Yes, there are some cheesy parts where, you know, something is superimposed over something else to get two things that are different scales to match up together, and it doesn't quite work right because, again, you're dealing with the technological limitations of 1957. That said, for 1957, this work is incredible. Ray Harryhausen is the top of his game. He is the top stop motion animator at the time, or maybe forever. And it's incredible work. This is a really fun movie. We had a ton of fun watching it. And, you know, the whole reason why you watch it is for those stop motion animated sequences. So, you know, maybe the acting's not as great as some other movies. Maybe the script has a few plot holes in it. That's not what you're there for. It's all just a setup for the cool action sequences that are animated. And those look amazing because it's Ray Harryhausen. So, totally recommended if you're into Harryhausen's work, or if you're into any of that 1950s creature feature sort of genre. This one is a fun twist because it's a space creature, so they can kind of take it in some different directions with that. There's some funny scientific explanations in the movie that I'm not going to spoil for you because I hope that you guys watch this film. We had a ton of fun watching it. And speaking of having a ton of fun watching a film, the next night we watched Arsenic and Old Lace, of course, from 1944, directed by Frank Capra, starring Cary Grant. This is one of my favorite black comedies of all time. This is one of those movies that no matter how many times I watch it, it's like it gets funnier and funnier every single time I see it. Basic story, you have a eccentric family, two old spinster aunts who live together in a house with our hero, Mortimer Brewster, played by Cary Grant, who is this like author who's a confirmed bachelor who like hates marriage and has written all these books against marriage, and then he's fallen in love with the girl next door. So the story opens with them getting married, but then there's all this action where they've got to go back to their houses and get ready to go on their honeymoon. Meanwhile, the whole meat of the movie takes place at the houses in the get ready period. Mortimer's brother or uncle, I'm not sure, Teddy, is crazy and thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt. His family just plays into that particular insanity because he's pretty much harmless. His other brother, Jonathan, has been missing for years, but then comes back with his assistant, played by Peter Lorre, who is a drunk plastic surgeon who's messed up Jonathan's face and made him look like Boris Karloff. It's pretty great. Cary Grant's character, Mortimer, is trying to get packed for his honeymoon that he's trying to go off on when he finds a dead body stashed in the window seat. How did that get there? I'm not even going to tell you because it just keeps getting better and better and better from there. This is a classic movie with incredible writing, incredible acting, incredible pacing. Cary Grant's telling entire novels just with his facial expressions. Peter Lorre is like doing tip-top Peter Lorre in this movie. A lot of the actors who are in the movie are actually from the original play, which the movie is based on, which was running on Broadway immediately before the movie was released. So that's pretty cool. The two actresses who play the aunts and the actor who plays the Teddy Roosevelt wannabe, are all just reprising their roles from the original play on Broadway. So this is a really, really fun one. If you like old comedies, or even if you don't like old comedies, this would be a good gateway black and white comedy. If you're the type of person who you like newer movies and you've wanted to get into older movies and you've been like, oh, I don't know, they're pretty slow in the pacing and I don't know if they're going to capture my attention that well. Arsenic and Old Lace is a great place to start. It's pretty fast moving. It's got great dialogue. It's very witty. It's very, very funny. I think you guys will enjoy it a lot. If you've watched it before, I recommend watching it again because, again, this is one of those ones that every time I watch it, I just get more and more out of it. So, Arsenic and Old Lace, total classic, totally recommended for everyone. All right. The next night after that, I'm so excited. I discovered another new movie that I didn't know existed. And when I say new, this movie is from, I think, 1974. But based on the classic children's book, Swallows and Amazons by Arthur Ransom. Have you guys read this book? This book is incredible. This is a great, great children's adventure story. And I never realized they made it into a great, great children's adventure movie. Again, mid-70s. I forgot to write down the name of the director. I apologize for that. But there's only one Swallows and Amazons from the mid-70s. So look it up. You guys won't regret it. This is a charming children's adventure story. It's 4 siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. They're vacationing in the Lake District of England in, I think it's 1929. They're there with their mother and their baby sister, and they're staying in a house on the shore of a lake, and there's a little sailboat with the house, and they get permission from their parents to take the sailboat and go off on an adventure where they basically move onto an island in the middle of the lake. 4 kids by themselves. I think the oldest is maybe 14 and the youngest is like 7. So they go off on this adventure. They go to this island where they set up camp and they go to live by themselves. But then they realize that someone else has been camping at the island. These guys are the Swallows because their boat is the Swallow. The other people who've been camping on the island are the Amazons. Their boat is the Amazon, of course. And once these 2 teams of children get together, they begin to have, well, at first a conflict and then an adventure together. I'm really trying not to spoil this because it is one of my favorite children's novels of all time. And I absolutely love the book. And I loved the movie. It was such a faithful interpretation of the book. Normally, I'm one of those people, I'm like, oh, the book's better than the movie. They did such a good job with this, you guys. If you've read Swallows and Amazons and you love it, you will love this movie. I guarantee it. If you've never read it, you could watch the movie first or read the book first. It wouldn't even matter. They're both great. You're going to love both of them. If you like kids media, if you like adventure stories, and especially adventure stories about kids getting to act independently without adults, it's just a complete classic. And I absolutely love what they did with it in this movie. It's just wonderful. And re-inspired my kids to read the book. So there you go. Swallows and Amazons. Absolutely great. I did note there was some 2016 version that got made. I have no idea about that. And you guys know I don't like newer movies as much as I like older movies. So, the vibe of this Swallows and Amazons from the 70s is very similar to the vibe of the Pippi Longstocking movies from the 70s as well. So if you like those and how they interpreted the Pippi Longstocking books, Swallows and Amazons, you guys are going to love it. And again, if you have kids, watch it with them. They're going to love it too. It's fantastic. All right. Next night after Swallows and Amazons, we watched another creature feature about a space alien coming and invading Earth and causing problems. Only this time it was a Japanese movie. We watched Space Amoeba from 1970, directed by Ishiro Honda, who's this director of the original Godzilla movie. This was a classic Toho monsters that are guys in rubber suits fighting each other movie. We've got a space probe that's gone into deep space, and some type of space amoeba has affixed itself. And when the thing crashes back to Earth, this time into the ocean off the coast of Japan, this space amoeba thing comes off the space probe and then basically infects local animals, turns them gigantic and belligerent. So you get a gigantic, we thought it was an octopus at first, but it turns out to be a cuttlefish. A gigantic cuttlefish that's attacking everybody with its tentacles and going crazy while it's in the water. But then because it's a guy in a rubber suit, really, it can actually stand up and walk across the land. So you get all these great battle scenes with this giant cuttlefish walking across an island and being attacked by, like local military forces who are trying to stop this giant monster from killing people. Once they defeat the cuttlefish, the amoeba thing, which is sort of like a glittery animated blob that like slinks around, it slurps off and goes and takes over a crab. And so then the next thing you have is this giant crab shows up, and they've got to figure out how to defeat the crab. There's a great sequence where they shoot the crab's eyes out, and it's like they are like these balls on stalks, crab eyes, right? But they like deflate, and like this gooey red jelly comes out. It's pretty great and weird. And then they defeat the crab, and then it's like a giant turtle, and then all this other mayhem happens. Again, I don't want to say too much about the plot here, but if you like classic Japanese Toho rubber suit monster movies, you will not go wrong with Space Amoeba. It is a great entry into the Toho lineup, and it came out in 1970, so it's kind of in this sweet spot where they have kind of brought things, they've had 15 years since Godzilla came out to really develop the idea, develop the techniques, and, get those rubber suits looking just so great. But it's not so far that it's kind of fallen apart into the 80s, 90s Toho movies are not nearly as good as the 50s, 60s, 70s ones. So Space Amoeba is a great entry into that genre. And that brings us to the end, because the next thing on my list is Weston Soda, which is what I started with, and which I want to remind you guys again, you should watch it. It's an incredible movie. And that's the end for this week. I'm not sure what all we're watching next week. I keep feeling like we should watch Sound of Music because Christopher Plummer just died. But I'll be real, that movie's like about an hour too long. I feel like they should make an edit of it that doesn't, the whole bit at the convent, how do you solve a problem like Maria at the beginning? It's kind of unnecessary. But anyhow, we might watch that. We might not. I'm not sure. What have you guys been watching? I always love to hear your lists and recommendations. If you have any for me, I would love to hear about it. Of course, February is Black History Month. So if you have any Black History oriented films to recommend, I would love to hear about it, because we're all about learning with our Cinema Club viewing. So that is it for me. I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. Until then, everybody stay safe and take care out there. And thank you so much for watching.